Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Authentic Talks. I was thinking about how can I do this intro this week where I sound different than I have on all of the other shows. And I got nothing, you guys. I came up with the very same thing because I'm talking to you from my heart. I know I always say, this is another amazing guest, or I have an amazing guest, or I love this. And, it's just true. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep it real with you guys. This week, I have another amazing guest for you, okay? I enjoyed talking with her. By the time we were done, I felt motivated and inspired, and that's what I love doing. I love bringing that to this platform where we're learning, we're growing, and it's just positivity. Positivity. I absolutely love it. Now, let's go ahead and get the show on the road. She is all about helping people define the true meaning of a successful life and a sense of purpose. She's a deep thinker, and she's releasing her very first book, you guys, on August the 27th. She's also the host of Life Up Education TV. You guys, I'm really excited to be introducing to you today the author of The Game of Self Domination. Please welcome Nasune Oki to Authentic Talks. Authentic Talks is all about authentic conversations. This show is all about growth, love, respect, success, mind, body, and spirit. If you're looking to grow and become your authentic self, then this is the podcast for you. And I am your host, Shantae. Welcome to the show. Hi, welcome to Authentic Talks.
Hi, thank you very much for having me to your show.
Thank you so much for being here with me. Can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yes, my name is Natsune. I am a host of Life Up Education TV. I'm also the author of the book called The Game of Self Domination. I also have this business in Japan called Foreign Connect, where I help Japanese companies, businesses enter American market by hiring local services.
Oh, wow. That's pretty interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about your Life's Up TV? What is it all about?
Yeah, so Life Up TV is Life Up Education TV. Did I say Life Up TV? Sorry.
Oh, I thought you
Uh,
said that.
no, it is actually Life Up Education TV. Life Up Education TV is a show that I'm developing that hosts people from all walks of lives. My goal is to have people experts in technology, science, and also like artists like DJ and just performing artists. And I am putting together a message of like what makes human perform at the optimal level from various angles in different welcoming different expertise to explain the the performance optimization. And also my vision of the show is to make something between impact theory. Do you know impact theory?
No, I don't.
So Impact Theory is a show that I follow. It's made by Tom Video, and this is an awesome show. He talks a lot about like educating people, inspiration, but also he invites like specific experts to talk about specific things. And I really like that thing. So I want to make that, and also I want to make my shows like entertaining. So I want to mix the Ellen show and then the Impact Theory like both together, and then I have that as a Life Up Education TV. Right now, I had a couple of episodes up. I had invited my guests. The first guest was a Swedish entrepreneur who started a company in Tokyo multiple times, and actually he's one of my best friends. I had a few other guests, but basically this is a show that I'm building. And aside from that, within the same domain, I just came up with my book called The Game of Self Domination.
Wow. That's really interesting. And as far as like when you're talking about TV, you mean like a whole station, or you mean like one show that encompasses all of those different things?
Yeah, one show. But
Oh, okay.
my goal is to just distribute the message, the core message that I'm inspired by, which is human potential. Like I want to distribute this message anywhere I can as much as possible.
Tell me more about that, the human potential.
Yeah, well, this is a big theme that I live by in my life. I'm just really inspired by how capable we are as a human, like as a human species. And I think there's less talk about that. We get caught up in noisy society now and a lot of cynicism. And I think we needed to hear how capable we are and how strong we can be. And these are exactly the authentic message that needs to be delivered to the world. So I'm just at the core level, I'm just so inspired by how much humankind have done in the world, and I want to purely deliver the same message to everyone else.
Is that what inspired you to write your book, The Game of Self Domination?
Yes, that's correct. I'm inspired by, like the biggest limit you have in your head is definitely your own mind. So I really wanted to understand how we can break that own blocks.
I love talking about the mind because I am a person who definitely believes that our mind is powerful. I strongly believe that. And so I definitely can see why it's interesting to you as well.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you talk about, get out of get out
Yeah,
of small box thinking, can you
yeah,
give me an example of that?
yeah. I think one of the things you can do is to create confidence based on your. Well, I wouldn't say confidence is always created by competence. You can always decide to create confidence, but what I want to say is creating by creating confidence, you basically create your vision of where you want to be, and you have the confidence backing up you that you can achieve that, right? So for me, coming out of small box, for example, is to see how capable you are from your past experiences, and then turn that into your vision and turn that into your uh, vision that's backed by your confidence. And for you to do that, you needed to visualize wherever you're going to, and also consciously look out for information and events and people who have already achieved the things that you want to achieve. And then that's gonna really break your small box thinking, because the informations are out there. People have achieved whatever you want to achieve right now. Like, that's not original. Someone at some point in our humanity has already achieved it. So you just have to look out for it. And then that becomes your confidence as well. You can acquire that specific experience or that specific event as your confidence to know that you can also achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Okay, so here's what I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
I would love to know, like, how did you get to this place where you are today, where this is your interest?
Give you some context of mine. I was born and raised in Tokyo, born and raised in Japan. And then I moved away from Japan to a country where I had no friends. I couldn't even speak the language, which is America. But I basically made that move.
So you were born and raised in Tokyo, and then you moved to the United States?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when you came to the United States, you could not speak English, or you
No,
could.
I couldn't speak English. Well, I could say my name and maybe like, hi, how are you? Like, kind of thing.
How old were you at that time?
Yeah, I was 18 years old.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. And then within that journey itself, I had to face multiple things that really hold me back, right? But so through this journey, like from me just going to a country where I had no like language skill, no friends, nothing. And then from there, being able to graduate in a degree, like a business, like being able to get a job, like work with lots of entrepreneurs, meet with a lot of entrepreneurs, and stuff like that. Like through that journey, I had to develop my own mindset, because there has been many times where I thought, well, I don't have this and that for me to be successful. But then as long as I was in that space where I saw what was lacking from me, I couldn't get out of that limitation. And I had to, at some point, develop my own mental tool that would really pushes me to be like, hey, like stop making excuses, and then be stronger than who you are right now, which is what you're living for ultimately, is to be a better person.
Was that scary for you, like making that transition?
I think more than scared, I was excited. I think at any time I have always been choosing riskier decisions in life, just like when I moved abroad, or just like when I started my business, and any time really. If you take any time of my life, like for example, this is something I talk about in my bio, but of my book, I was almost kicked out high school student, and then that's like probably one of the major point that um, was started showing who I was as a person. Is that, like, for example, growing up in Japanese education system where everything is right or wrong, right? Like the way they teach here, for example, if we take history class as an example, they wouldn't teach you like, so they wouldn't teach you how to think, but they rather teach you like what is the right answer and what is the wrong answer. There's always this like right or wrong indication to behind everything. So
Is that like that here in the States, or it's like that in Japan?
like that in Japan, like for
Oh,
example, in history class, they wouldn't ask you to write essays about the historical event. Like, what do you think about this incident, like this past event, whatever. But then instead, the way they test you is to ask, so what year was this happened? Or what was the name of the person who made this thing? Like, these are the things that we needed to remember. And then the more score we have, which is really the indication of how good of a memory we have and how good of a functionality we have, you're better off, right? In this society, the better you function in, things like memory, things like, preciseness, things like being an operator is more valued in the education system here. So that was the time, probably one of the first time of my life where I was brought out as courageous person, because I really questioned the system and I just couldn't follow other people's rule just because the rule was like that. I always had my opinion. I always wanted to express my opinion, even though expressing your own opinion or having your own opinion was viewed as something that wasn't like that wasn't encouraged. Like, you were kind of like troublemaker for having your own opinion, and then society kind of wanted to get rid of your personality basically. And even though I was in that situation, I just couldn't lie to myself for, okay, well, because I want to be successful, I'm just gonna be like one of them. But instead I chose to be who I am, and I chose to pursue who I was. So that got me into so much trouble, and then basically that led me to be almost kicked out high school student. So just to come back to our conversation, that was one of the first point where my personality really started showing, is that at any point of my life, I just couldn't, my fear was weaker than my fear of not being myself.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Is it still like that today? Is that a part of the culture in Japan?
Yeah, I would say definitely. Like, I think internet bullying is a phenomena that, like, that's a problem issue of any parts of the world. But I think when I go to the internet, for example, some of the things these Japanese people say to each other is very, very harsh. But the way they bully other people, it's kind of funny to see as well, because it directly shows you the correlation of how they were raised, which was, don't act stupid. Like, if you're different, you look fool, you look stupid. Like, I feel so ashamed of you for being so stupid, like, for being so different. Like, this is the fundamental base of where they come from, because they're so afraid of being different. And then wherever they see people who are expressing their own opinion or who are being different, they feel scared, and then out of that fear they have to go out their way to comment on something.
Wow, well, that's good you were able to get out and come to a place where you're able to express who you are and to be yourself. I think that's pretty awesome and very courageous of you.
Yeah, I think if anything, that's probably one of my biggest strengths is that I'm courageous.
I could totally see that. Whenever you mention dead life, can you talk to me about what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so dead life is, to me, my definition of dead life is when you are just living your life, but not knowing your own purpose, not knowing your own voice, or not, even if you are knowing your voice, you're not following it. That to me is a dead life. Because, like, what are we really here for, you know? Like, for example, this is one of the reasons I mentioned why self-awareness is one of the key factor when you try to plan for your successful life or what that looks like. And then also why I referred this quote from Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, who said, happiness is virtue activities of the soul. And I very much resonate with that. And what he means is you are in for the life to fight against things that's gonna challenge your virtues. So you're not here to get to a destination. No, that's not what you're here for. You are here to be a warrior who will fight against things that's gonna challenge you and then test your virtue to become who you are. And I think this is very true in life. A lot of people are scared of these things that will challenge them, right? Because that means that you might break, you might lose your identity. I call it as identity, but what I really mean is like perceived self-worth. Like these are the things that stop us. But ultimately, if we don't challenge ourselves to be stronger, like to be willing to face these things, you're not gonna grow. And if you don't grow, you're dead mentally. So I think that for me, definition of dead life is living your life out of fear and then not facing your challenges.
Yeah, I love that because it seems like if we're in 2020, that people would become more open to wanting to become more of their authentic selves.
Mm-hmm. I think industry wise, fitness and wellness is growing definitely. Like the past few years, this has been one of the most growing industry in Japan. And I think this concept of like, self mastery, like stuff like that still resonates with the religion here. So I think it will be accepted by people still. And then, I mean, the book category wise, self-help is still one of the biggest category here in Japan as well. So people would definitely find it interesting. And I think what's unique about this book is that I don't necessarily just come from like American, success mindset person, but I kind of mixed with the Zen kind of place as well, because how I'm brought up as Japanese person growing up in Japan, even if without knowing, I kind of still carry that as me being Japanese. So my perspective is sort of mixed of the two, because I still love the idea of like American dream and just striving for something that inspires you and don't worry about your worth and try to play within your worth, but like achieve for higher. Like that's the idea of American dream, but right. But then Japan, like the society really conflicts with this idea that we even have a phrase where we say act according to your worth. We say 身の丈に合った行動をする. So this is a phrase that describes how people should act according to their worth. And this is a saying, like everybody says this. And then I'm like, like F that, like I don't believe it. I'm super not interested in acting according to my words. I want to perform at a level that exceeds my expectation. I'm still like I said, I'm inspired by possibility of humanity. and I want to always achieve for higher, like strive for higher than what we perceive ourselves being capable, right? uh,
Yes.
but then so like I said, I think I kind of come from the both background, so I kind of created a nice mixture of two different concepts.
I love all of the positivity. I love like elevating our minds and like I even love like the idea of reinventing yourself and because it's like coming from Japan to America, it's like that's in a way that's what you were able to do and still able to continue to do that. So I love it. I absolutely love it. And going back to Japan, Zen, oh my gosh, like I want a Zen room. I want an area that has that calming,
Nice.
like meditation type, I have it like I'm starting up. I want to see what it looks like in Japan.
Like when I think about, I don't know necessarily if I should use the word Zen, but that just kind of popped up in my mind when I said it. But when
Mhm.
I think of like what I appreciate about having characteristic of Japan versus like what I appreciate having characteristic of America, I kind of see conscious capitalism. Like
Mhm.
from Japan, that's kind of the word I would come up with from Japanese side. Like for example, America is a country where it values, entrepreneurship, money, capitalism, and these are exciting things, right? And then I'm not against that at all. I'm in for it, all in. And we definitely need competition in order for us to be better as a humanity, like not even at the individual level, but as a humanity. To advance our humanity, we need competition. But when I think about what I appreciate from Japanese side is the consciousness that we can create within that capitalism society, because I think capitalism puts us in a mind mental state where we're in a scarcity. Like we are constantly told we're not enough. We're constantly told we don't have enough to feel whatever the way, right? But
Mhm.
at the very high level, like how I make peace with where I come from, like what I'm brought up with from Japanese culture, is at the very high level, you kind of need to accept the fact that you don't have control over everything, and you just kind of need to be peace with it. And you have to kind of accept the life as it is. You don't have to necessarily try to change everything. You don't have to try to dominate everything or control everything, because things are just how it is, and you can still choose to be like peaceful within yourself. So really it comes down to not dominating outside of everything, but then really quote unquote dominating inside of what's going on. Because if you let other things to make you feel certain way, you're in an ultimate slavery. So you kind of need to understand that some things are how it is, and at the very high level you kind of need to make a peace with it. And that's what I appreciate from coming from my culture, where they're peaceful.
Yes. Can you talk to me a little bit about your concept of fake it till you make it?
Mm. Yeah, so this is something I mentioned in my book as well. And so it's very interesting. It actually had some study that I mentioned, and I think it's going to be really long to explain everything. So I'm just going to give you the short version.
Mhm.
But from the conclusion, it works. And it could, like, when I start talking about the power of visualization and everything, it could hear like la la, but then it really does work. And the thing is, you can't just have your vision, but your body or whatever you do needs to align with your confidence. So basically our brain is, so our reality is not really a reality. Reality is just hallucination backed by senses. meaning that we can trick our brain to think in any way we want to, but we just needed to align our action and behavior according to that. And then when you do that, your confidence is already competent because you, well, quote unquote, trick yourself to think that you are capable in that area. So the real problem is not lack of competence. The real problem is lack of practice. So you need to keep practicing. You are capable of something, and you need to basically, you need to definitely align your behavior to it, and then your confidence become competent. But that's very like a short, quick story of what I talked about.
I believe that definitely is true. It kind of reminds me of like when you're going through affirmations and you're saying them, and eventually you, for people who don't believe that what they're saying is real, but then they grow into believing it, and then next thing you know, it kind of happens, you know. I kind of see it in that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very powerful. Like there's definitely the power in powerful thing in verbal communication and also non-verbal communication, because we have mind and body connection. So whatever we put in our mind, kind of our body try to make that as a reality, because we always want to align our mind and body.
absolutely. I totally agree. What do you actually do for fun while you're here?
Yeah, so I think I'm a big believer of life and work integration, which I learned from Tony Robbins. And I'm a big believer of that as well. Like when you want to be leader, it comes down to your self-awareness once again. Like you can't really talk about life and work balance. Like rather it should be life and work integration, because when you decide you are certain people, it requires you to be certain way. And that's okay. If that's not for you, you shouldn't do it, because that's going to make you like conflicted about your happiness. But when you own it, like you're okay with sacrificing certain things in the name of wanting to become that person you want to be. And I kind of make a peace with that. Like I work all the time, yes, but then at the same time I kind of see as my responsibility of wanting to be the person I want to be. And I'm fully aware of who I am, what I want in terms of self-awareness. Like I really don't see it as a sacrifice. I kind of see it as my responsibility.
And when you see it in that way, then that's when you know that you're walking in your purpose, and the things that you desire to become will become.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
So, yeah, if I want to be politically correct, I still would say like, oh, you gotta have the balance, blah, blah, blah. But then once again, I think it comes down to your self-awareness, like you can't lie about who you are. You just gotta act according to what feels right for you.
absolutely. When you think of quantum physics, what goes through your mind?
The thing I talk about in my book, one of the things I included quantum physics, but basically this talks about our vibration, like we are made with small particles that's vibrating, and then basically the vibe that causes the particles, the small particles moving really fast, it causes vibration, and then this vibration vibes with other things. And for example, this is something I talk about in my book. The proof of that is when you think about magnets, right? The way they attract each other is because their frequency of the vibe matches with each other. Well, I wouldn't say matches, but it face toward the same direction. So that's why it magnifies each other. It pulls each other together. So that's like a scientific explanation of how the vibration works. And then when we think about table, when we think about phone, like everything is made by particles, small particles. So we're not really solid matter. We're not really a solid matter. What we are is just small dots moving really fast. So that's like the concept behind what I wanted to talk about in my book as quantum physics, is to say, you know, like many things we hallucinate as a reality, many things we don't see in everyday life that we make assumptions on, could be challenged if we really look at what's really going on underneath. So to come back to your question, there's a role in this, which is your vibration, your frequency of vibration. This is an analogy I talk about. Your frequency of vibration tends to attract things that matches with your vibration.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
When you talk about tool to life, like how we may apply the MISI communication tool to life.
Yeah. So I consist of 5 different concepts. In that chapter, I have like a whole, you know, big chunk of chapter that talks about that. And I consist of 5 different concepts. The first one is coming from Italian engineer. The second one comes from famous British economist. The third one comes from the MISI, like you said, business consulting firm. It's a corporate strategy that they use. And the fourth one comes from Toyota Lean Manufacturing. It's a manufacturing strategy Toyota uses. And then the fifth one comes from the 34th US president. He was using this method to decide what tasks to dedicate his time on in a day. So basically what this talks about is combination of these 5 things. But my goal of talking about this is how to be organized in the way you communicate with yourself and with the tasks you need to do. Because when you are organized, very organized, your focus increases, and then you're more productive, you can achieve more. So basically I came up with this tool that it's a scoring system that everybody can use in their own daily life, where they, based on these 5 different things that I talk about, which kind of comes from business background because I have the business background, but then I really wanted to put that into life application, life strategy that people can use to be organized and to be effective and efficient in the way they do things or in the way they communicate within themselves. So I basically kind of laid out these 5 different concepts and then connected with how we can use that in life.
I like that. That's pretty interesting. You mentioned that you have a podcast.
Yeah.
What is the podcast about?
Yeah, so it is actually the same domain as LifeUpEducationTV. And I am interviewing people from different expertise. Specifically, right now, I'm focusing on, once again, the performing artists, because I'm very curious about their like creative processes and how that can help our life to perform better. And also scientists who have facts about like physiology, like how can we optimize our optimal state, and also like mindset wise. But I invite people from various different industries to talk about like how we can optimize our performance.
If someone wanted to listen to the podcast, what platforms is it located on?
Yeah, I'm basically pretty much everywhere. I have it on Spotify. I have it on my website, lifeupeducationtv.com. I have it on YouTube. I also have it on SoundCloud, Google, Anchor, everything you can think of.
I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah, sounds good. Actually, I'm kind of putting a post to it right now because I'm doing like tour, virtual tour for my book. But I'm gonna start producing more and more content probably like 2 months from now.
When is your book coming out?
It's coming out on August 27th.
Will the book be available for purchase like hard copy, or will it be available as an ebook only?
No, it's going to be available on ebooks and hard copy. You can even pre-order it already through my website, lifeupeducationtv.com. And if anyone's interested, actually, with exchange with Amazon Review, I'm also doing a short limited time giveaway for e-copy free book. with the exchange with Amazon Review. So if anyone's interested, I can probably coordinate logistics side of things with you. But then, yeah, if anyone's interested, they can sign up.
Okay, that sounds good. So, what was the process like of writing the book?
The process was like honestly, I didn't necessarily plan it ahead because I was so clear about what I wanted to communicate with. So I basically kind of came up with my own outline, but without necessarily like having to structure A to Z. But then I basically kind of wrote whatever I wanted to communicate. And then from there, I looked at it and then I ordered it in a way that made the most sense. But for me, like, I literally, this is part of, I would say this is kind of like my journey and dial of what I've learned so far with my journey. And then I made it so authentic to the point where I didn't necessarily have to reorder things because I just literally mentioned what I went through in the order. So to come back to your question, I developed my outline and then I looked at it and made a small adjustment of how the structure should be, how easy the communication, flow is, relation to what I want to communicate. And then I started writing chapter by chapter. And I probably went back, like, I don't know, probably 20 times, like even more. And then I would hire, editors, and they would look at it, they would work on it, and then they get back to me, and I would work on it once again. And, I would once again submit it to editor, and then they come back to me, and then I would get leaders, well, test the group leaders, and then they give me feedback and I have to go back and edit. And so it's like a multiple layers of editing and multiple layers of like questioning my contents constantly. But it took me probably the whole book. It's right now it's 400 pages. That's because I have it in
Wow.
spacing, double spacing. But the book itself, it takes probably 2 hours to read if you read it in 2 days, like 2 hours each day. So probably like 4 hours.
So, how does that work? Do you have to pay to have so many books printed and then they're just ready to ship once people order them from Amazon? Or do you
Uh,
print as they order?
yeah, so you can do either way.
Wow, it's interesting to hear like the book writing of the book process, I think.
Yeah, it has been a lot of fun actually. I kind of wrote this book for myself as well, like in the hope that it could be something helpful for other people as well. But then I use, for example, I use a lot of like harsh tones, not harsh, but like I would say like, you need to do this, you need to do that, whatever, whatever. But then I'm really not talking to readers. I was talking to myself by the fact that I kind of share this to some people before it was even a book. Like a lot of people came to me for advice and stuff because I always have this like really high positive energy. Um, I think people find what I've learned helpful, but
Mm-hmm.
the part of the book I kind of wrote it also to be a guide for myself because I wanted to remember what's most important, which is to manage your mind.
It sounds like you're going to be an author that actually continues to read your own book.
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome. I was speaking with someone about a book that they had written and they were the same way, like where they actually read their book and will read it again.
Life is continuous journey and you need to keep growing, keep leveling up. That might mean that you might develop in a different direction. And I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of it. Like I can get out of one thing, but then I could also evolve as I grow. So my opinion about certain things might change, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm not going to punish myself for changing.
Mm-hmm. When we talk about Japan, you know how here there's different religions and
Yeah.
what is it there? Is it spirituality or is it like, is there a religion?
Yeah, when I say once again about Zen, I think I don't know if I use the word correctly, but I think it's integrated in our culture very deeply that our
Oh,
behavior, like we carry out this natural cultural behavior um, in our daily life. Just it's just shown in the way we think, way we behave, when we look at things. So I don't necessarily practice, like so many other people, we don't necessarily practice something, but
Mm-hmm.
we are brought out as, generation grows. We are product of whatever was past, and then these people from the past had specific beliefs, so it's still integrated heavily in the culture.
Oh, got it. And
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy or wild because here in the United States, we look for things that are like that. We want that. We want to have like the meditation room. And I don't really know much about the culture, to be really honest with you, but I find that there is an attraction for the arts, for the just certain things, that we have in our house. And so you're not going to walk in and it has this total feel like you're someplace else, but you could see little things within like certain rooms within the house
Hmm.
that has that feel.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
at the same time, I think, grass is always greener, like we have some things that people from different cultures really like. They want to acquire things about us, and we have certain things that we wish we had from other culture. And by accepting diversity and by accepting differences into our culture, that's also another way that us as a nation will grow, by accepting new perspectives. Like we progress,
Mhm.
we um, that's the way we, well, basically we will progress our humanity to go to next generation, because without that we have no innovation and we have no way to grow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that a place that you would recommend for someone to travel to visit?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think if you haven't been here, I think it'll be really nice experience. It's just by knowing different parts of the world, by traveling and also living. I think Japan is definitely one of the most unique place with lots of culture, lots of history, and you can kind of see that like there's a reflection in people of like accumulation of our history.
I think that's pretty cool. And where in the United States are you?
Actually, right now I'm in Tokyo, but I was
Oh.
in Washington State, Seattle, and I also moved to Florida.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what are the types of things that you eat a lot of? Like here we eat a lot of everything. Everything that's not good.
Yeah, I think we eat. This is something funny because my friend from Italy, he came to Japan and he was surprised that we eat the typical breakfast in Japan. We eat fish in breakfast, like cooked fish, not the sushi fish, but cooked fish. So the typical breakfast would be like miso soup, white rice, and fish, cooked one.
Oh,
And
that is different.
yeah, he was very surprised. He's like, "Wow, you eat the fish in the morning?" um, but yeah, that's like a typical breakfast here. If you live like very old school. But as generation changes, I think a lot of people also eat bread in the breakfast. And but yeah, the default has always been rice. I think white rice.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I try for brown rice. Whenever I eat rice, I try for brown rice because I heard that it observes less. The body observes less of that or something.
Mhm. Is there a lot of difference between like there and here as far as like the things that you do, like as far as activities?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's some difference. I think biggest thing I noticed actually is how early places close in America versus how late places are open in Japan. Like if you're in Tokyo, middle of the Tokyo, you can you can eat sushi in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. Sushi places open until like 5 a.m.
Oh,
So,
wow.
or like ramen or like whatever, you have the craving for night. Restaurants are open. If you go to like a center of the city, like everything, literally everything is open. Convenience store is 24/7. It's already the same. It's actually the same in America. But no, yeah, a lot more places are open during the night, and business hours are longer, I think, in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, it sounds like it's like a city that never sleeps. It's nice.
Yeah.
Like here, everything does close early, especially when you're in like smaller towns,
Hmm.
you know. And
Yeah.
I think I've seen something with Tokyo. It is modern,
Yeah. Hmm.
like
I
with
think so.
nice buildings and cars and
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
I,
they
I
have a lot of like uh, experiments they're doing with AI and everything. So I think technology is also integrated in many places that we don't necessarily get to see in America. But also, again, maybe if you're in New York, the story might be different. I've only been to New York twice.
I do think that New York is like a city that never sleeps as well.
Yeah.
In Tokyo, it's pretty safe, right?
Yeah, like the craziest story that I had a few days ago, actually. Well, actually, it wasn't even a few days, but a few months ago, is that I was at the convenience store and I had to withdraw some money, and I was in an ATM, and then I got out some money, but it wasn't much. Like it was just like $100. And
Mm-hmm.
then I don't know for what sake, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking about, but I left it. I left the money, like money, naked money there, right? I didn't even take it out, and I just went out. And 10 minutes later, I took my wallet, saw my wallet, like inside of the wallet, noticed that, wait, where is my money? And then at that time, I noticed that, like, oh my God, I left it in the convenience store. So I ran back, not expecting I would see that money. But then the clerk of the convenience store, they were like, oh, did you just leave money? And then here it is. And then they give it to me. I'm like,
Wow.
oh.
Yeah, that is really awesome because
Yeah.
there's a lot of good people here, but I don't know that that would have happened.
Yeah.
Wow, that was like totally good that you were able to, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So you mentioned that you have a website. If people
Yeah.
wanted to find you, can you
Yeah.
share the name of the website?
Yeah. It's LifeUpEducationTV.com
And so then your book will be available.
on my website. Yeah. And it's actually already available for pre-orders.
Okay.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
can go to my website, and then there's a tab that says book launch. And then there you can pre-order book. And it's
Okay.
also available in Amazon.
What do you want the audience to know or to remember, like about the show? If you had to sum it up and
Mhm.
talk to them directly, what would you say to them?
Generally, my message, just generally, is the biggest message I want to share is don't be afraid to look stupid, or don't be afraid to look full, because if you're not looking full, trying hard at achieving your goal, you're not setting your goal high enough. To me, like, my biggest theme of my life is I want to live a life where I have lots of love, lots of passion, lots of emotions. I don't want to be cool, you know? I don't give like them about looking like a cool person. Like, I much
Yeah.
rather experience, many failures, but I want to strive for inspiration, you know?
Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
People
you
are
look.
a lot of people are afraid of looking like a cool. Like, I mean, they're afraid of not looking like a cool.
Mm-hmm. And like that fear will get a hold of you and it'll stop you in your tracks. I dealt with fear, and fear keeps showing up differently every time. And so when you're afraid of those things, then
Mhm.
I think that in the end, what it does is it starts to work on you and from the inside, and it makes you eventually you start to get depressed when you're not living in your like living your life to the fullest and being you. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're afraid to live and afraid to be and afraid of judgment and all of those things, that stuff, we hear a lot of people talk about being depressed. A lot of people talk about all these different issues that they have. And sometimes I feel as if they remove some of the barriers, like, and get out of their own way,
Mm-hmm.
with that being afraid of that judgment, that they wouldn't have that depression. And not everyone, but for some people, that they, when they realize it is depression associated with that, because they're not living their life and being their authentic self, you
Mm-hmm.
know and so that's one of the ways that I know it impacts you.
Mm-hmm.
um
And
yeah.
like honestly, I think it all comes down to self-awareness once again. Like
Mhm.
you there's always challenges any direction you go. Even if you wanna, like you thought, you wanted to be this person and you decided to take action, and that's not the end of the story, that's just the beginning. So
Mhm.
you will face some sort of challenges and adversities in life. If you are not willing to take it, don't do it. And it's okay. Like, don't punish yourself for not choosing to do something because you don't want to do it. That's okay. Just use it as your guidance to guide yourself to things that excites you, and
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't like, so you can still try it. But if you don't like it, don't worry about, like, you know punishing yourself for choosing something different than what you initially thought was going to be. Like, just keep trying and try to find the path that excites you the most, and you need to be okay with that. Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much, Nasune, for coming on Authentic Talks. I really enjoyed talking with you, and keep pushing and going. I love the fire that you have, girl. You got some fire there. And I love the fact that you were able to just share a different perspective coming from, a different place where you've been here in the United States as well as in Japan, and you're able to bring together both cultures. And I'm really excited about the book dropping. And I love that you're talking about leveling up. Level up, level up. All right, you guys, just a reminder that Nasune's book will be dropping on August the 27th. All of the information will be in the show notes on how you may pre-order the book, how you may order the book once it comes out, whichever works best for you. There's 15 tips in the book, and I'm excited for you guys to get those tips. Again, the name of the book is called The Game of Self Domination by Nasune Oki. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Shantae with Authentic Talks.